Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Sen Taur Scrolls, Lore, Fire, and Forbidden Texts. Welcome to the Sen Taur Scrolls, Lore, Fire, and Forbidden Texts with me, Reverend Mother Mary Catherine. I'm happy to be here and I'm happy to have you all here with me. Thanks for coming. All right, so today I hope everybody had a wonderful summer solstice. And today we are going to finish Aradia if it kills me. We're in the very end, okay? Like the final, um, I guess you call them appendices at the back. And it's really weird because this book is like half Italian and half English. So I'm going to go to the very last part, which is called Diana, Queen of the Serpents, Giver of the Gift of Languages. In a long and strange legend of Malombo, a, ma- a Magian, and I'm sure that's supposed to be a magician, and great physician of divine birth, there is an invocation to Diana, which has a proper place in this work. The incident in which it occurs is as follows. One day, Malombo asked his mother how it was that while it had been promised that he should know the language of all living things, it had not yet come to pass. And his mother replied, Patience, my son, for it is by waiting and watching ourselves that we learn how to be taught. And thou hast within thee the teachers who can impart the most, if thou wilt seek to hear them. Yes, the professors who can teach thee more in a few minutes than others learn in a life. It befell that one evening Malombo, thinking on this while playing with a nest of young serpents, which his servant had found in a hollow oak, said, I would that I could talk to you. Well, I know that ye have language, as graceful as your movement, as brilliant as your color. And then he fell asleep. The young serpents twined in his hair and began to lick his lips and eyes with their while their mother sang the invocation of the serpent's mother to Diana. Diana, 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 queen of all enchantresses, and of the night, and of the dark night, and of all nature, and of the stars, and of the moon, and of all fate or fortune, thou who rulest the tide, who shinest by night on the sea, casting light upon the waters, thou who art mistress of the ocean, in thy boat made like a crescent. Crescent moon bark brightly gleaming, ever smiling high in heaven, sailing too on earth reflected, in the ocean on its water. We implore thee, give this sleeper, give unto this good Malombo the great gift of understanding what all creatures say while talking. This legend contains much that is very curious, among other things, as invocation to the firefly, one to Mephidia, the goddess of malaria, and a long poetic prophecy relative to the hero. It is evidently full of old Latin mythologic lore of a very marked character. The whole of it may be found in a forthcoming work by the writer of the book entitled The Unpublished Legends of Virgil, London, Elliot Stock. Diana as giving beauty and restoring strength. Diana hath power to do all things, to give glory to the lowly, wealth to the poor, joy to the afflicted, beauty to the ugly. Be not in grief, if you are her follower. Though you be in prison and in darkness, she will bring light. Many there are whom she thinks that they may rise the higher. There was of old in Monteroni a young man so ugly that when a stranger was passing through the town, he was shown this Gianni, for such was his name, as one of the sights of the place, yet hideous as he was, because he was rich. Though of no family, he had confidence, and hoped boldly to win and wed some beautiful young lady of rank. Now there came to dwell in Monteroni a wonderfully beautiful Biondina, or blonde young lady of culture and condition, to whom Gianni, with his usual imprudence, boldly made love, getting, as was also unusual around, no for his reply. By this time, being more than usually fascinated in good truth, for there were influences at work he knew not of, he became as one possessed or mad with passion, so that he hung about the lady's house by night and day, seeking indeed an opportunity to rush in and seize her, or by some desperate trick to master and bear her away. But here his plans were defeated, because the lady had ever by her great cat, which seemed to be more than human intelligence, and whenever Gianni approached her or her home, it always espied him and gave the alarm with a terrible noise. And there was indeed something so unearthly in its appearance, and something so awful in its great green eyes, which shone like torches, that the boldest man might have been appalled by them. But one evening Gianni reflected that it was foolish to be afraid of a mere cat, which need only scare a boy, and so he boldly ventured on an attack. So going forth, he took a ladder, which he carried and placed against the lady's window. But while it stood at the foot, he found by him an old woman, who earnestly began to beg him not to persevere in his intention. For thou knowest well, Gianni, she said, that the lady will have none of thee. Thou art a terror to her. But do go home and look in the glass, and it will seem to thee that thou art looking on mortal sin in human form. And Gianni, in a roaring rage, cried, I will have my way, and my will, thou old wife of the devil, if I must kill thee, and the girl too. Saying which, he rushed up the ladder, but before he had opened or could enter the window, and was at the top, he found himself, as it were, turned to wood or stone, unable to move. Then he was overwhelmed with shame, and said, Ere long the whole town will be here to witness my defeat. However, I will make one last appeal. So he cried, O Vichea, thou who didst mean me more kindly than I knew, pardon me, I beg thee, and rescue me from this trouble. And if, as I well ween, thou art a witch, and if I, by becoming a wizard, may be freed from my trials and troubles, then I pray thee teach me how it may be done, so that I may win the young lady, since I now see that she is of that kind, and that I must be of it to be worthy of her. Then Gianni saw the old woman sweep like a flash of light from a lantern up from the ground, and touching him, bore him away from the ladder, and when lo, the light was a cat, who had been anon the witch, and she said, Thou wilt soon set forth on a long journey, and in thy way thou wilt find a wretched, worn out horse, when thou must say, Fairy Diana, Fairy Diana, Fairy Diana, I conjure thee to do some little good to this poor beast. Then thou wilt find a great goat, a true he-goat, and thou shalt say, Good evening, fair goat, and he will reply, Good evening, fair sir. I am so weary that I can go no further, and thou shalt reply as usual, Fairy Diana, I conjure thee to give to this goat relief and peace. Then we will enter in a great hall, where thou wilt see many beautiful ladies who will try to fascinate thee, but let thy answer ever be, She whom I love is her of Monterone. And now, Gianni, to horse, mount, and away. So he mounted the cat, which flew as quick as a thought, and found the mare, and having pronounced over it the incantation, it became a woman and said, In the name of the fairy Diana, mayest that thou hereby become a beautiful young man, red and white in hue, like to milk and blood. After this he found the goat, and conjured it in like manner, and it replied, In the name of fairy Diana, be thou attired more richly than a prince. So he passed to the hall, where he was wooed by many beautiful ladies, but his answer to them all was that his love was at Monterone. Then he saw or knew no more, but on awaking found himself in Monterone, so changed to a handsome young youth that no one knew him. So he married his beautiful lady, and all lived in the hidden life of witches and wizards from that day, and are now in fairyland. And the last is a note. As a curious illustration of the fact that the faith in Diana and the other deities of the Roman mythology, as connected with divination, still survives among the Italians of the people. I may mention that after this work went to press, I purchased for 2 soldi or 1 penny a small chapbook in which it is showed how, by a process of conjuration or evocation and numbers, not only Diana, but 39 other deities may be made to give answer to certain questions. The work is probably taken from some old manuscript, as it is declared to have been discovered and translated by P.P. Francisco di Villanova Montalone. It is divided into 2 parts, one entitled Circe and the other Medea. As such works must have pictures, Circe is set forth by a page cut of a very ugly old woman in the most modern costume of shawl and mop cap with ribbons, and she is holding an ordinary candlestick. It is quite the ideal of a common fortune teller, and it is probable that the words Mega Circe suggested nothing more or less than such a person to him who made up the book. That of Medea is, however, quite correct, even artistic, representing the sorceress as conjuring the magic bath, and was probably taken from some work on mythology. It is ever so in Italy, where the most grotesque and modern conceptions of classic subjects are mingled with much that is accurate and beautiful, of which indeed this work supplies many examples. All right, we're done with it. That's it for Aradia. And that, for a little tiny book, it sure took us a while to get through this one. So that said, I did pull out a few books that we can choose for next time, and so I have The Accidental Christ by Lon Milo DuQuette. I have The Locket by Richard Paul Evans. This isn't real mystical or magical. It's kind of cool though. I have The Dove Keepers by Alice Hoffman. This is ancient um, Israel when the Romans were conquering Israel. So if you're not familiar with the Dove Keepers, this was made into a movie, but the movie glossed over so much of the stuff that was in here, and it just didn't touch on a lot of the things that really resonated with me with this book, which basically they they believed in Ashura, the wife or goddess to Jehovah Yahweh, and that's in here. And I found that super interesting. So this is a good book. It is fiction. And last but not least, The Norse Myths. And this is by Kevin Crossley Holland. And it's very, very good. I love this book. And the 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 prose in it aren't super long. So, okay, with that, again, thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. We'll be back next Sunday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, just like usual. But do like and leave a comment. Which of these books would you like to explore next? And other than that, blessed be. Have a great rest of your weekend. What's left of it.